Born from the ashes. Well, that's the perfect way to sum up these two new Royal Enfield twin motorcycles that are standing with me. Now more so for the Interceptor, which is back after a long gap of decades, and the Continental, which was reborn in 2013 but is now available in a new form, that is a 650cc format. Now there has been a lot of interest around both of these motorcycles, and it makes sense because for a long time enthusiast riders have been waiting for a parallel twin Royal Enfield, and finally both of these are now available at your nearest Royal Enfield showroom. Now we are riding these motorcycles throughout the day today. I have already ridden the Continental GT and next up is the Interceptor. Now what are the pros and cons of this motorcycle? What could have been better? What are the features, and whether they make a good buy at its price or not? Well, that is something we'll tell you throughout the course of this video.
Now let's start off with the design of these motorcycles, and as you can see we have the Continental with us right now, and it is a proper cafe racer design. Now of course you have the option of choosing between a single seat and a dual seat option. So yes, even if you choose for the dual seat like we have here, you have the option of placing a cowl here, so that sportiness is something which will not get lost. Now between the Interceptor and the Continental, the key difference is, well, in terms of design, the fuel tank is different. Of course, there's a difference in terms of badging, and the foot peg placement is different. But apart from that, both motorcycles do not have any major difference in terms of features or in terms of powertrain. Both are retro looking motorcycles, both look very good, and one of the best things on both of these motorcycles is the fact that Royal Enfield has not cut corners with build and finish quality. If you look at the paint, you look at the welding joints, you look at the wiring harness, everything has been done properly, a lot better than some of the more expensive motorcycles in a similar or a much larger displacement category.
If outright bling is your thing, then these bikes might not be for you. But for anyone who understands and loves classic motorcycles, there's hardly any reason to not love them. In terms of riding experience, both the motorcycles are quite different due to the change in riding position. The Continental GT is of course more aggressive and will have you putting more weights on your wrists, forearms and shoulders. We rode the bike for about 130 kilometers in the first half of the day, and about 3 hours into the ride, a break was always welcome due to the growing strain on my shoulder and back. Hence, the Continental then is suitable for leisure riding and for weekend rides. The Interceptor offers a much more relaxed riding position and hence can be used for many purposes, including touring, commuting, leisure riding and many more. Lesser strain on the shoulders and back means that one can ride this bike without any problems for hours. I rode the Interceptor for more than 120 kilometers on the first day, and the bike didn't give me any reasons to complain.
Now let's talk about the most important part of these motorcycles, which is the performance, and that is one of the main reasons why you will go ahead and buy this or the Continental GT. Now what you get here is a brand new parallel twin 650cc motor, which gives you an output of 47 horsepower and 51 Newton meters of torque.
The more important thing though is how this power is laid down, and that happens very efficiently. 80% of the torque is available from as low as 2500 RPM, translating into lesser gear shifts in traffic.
Now, on the face of it, these numbers aren't really exciting. You might say, yeah, okay, they're just ordinary numbers, but that is not really the reason to get less excited about the motorcycle, because when you ride it, you realize that the motor is so tractable, you can actually use all of that power, and that just makes both of these motorcycles so much more fun to ride. The other great thing about both of these motorcycles is the new gearbox. It's a 6-speed gearbox and it works flawlessly. Now I've ridden this for 2 days. I've ridden this motorcycle, I've thrashed it hard for more than 300 kilometers, and not for once I've encountered a false neutral or any problem with the gearbox. It just shifts easily and it's quick.
Being a parallel twin, there's no thump, but there's a lovely burbling sound. The Continental sounds a bit more sporty, although it has the same kit as the Interceptor. Now the reason for this is the difference in rider position, which is more forward and hence you're closer to the intake. One of the things that stood out for me was the lack of vibrations. Finally, here are Enfield motorcycles that can cruise effortlessly all day at 120 km an hour. And even at 140 km an hour, vibrations aren't intrusive. Once past 150 km an hour is where vibrations start knocking but aren't enough to bother the rider. Suspension setup and brakes are similar on both bikes, but the Continental feels a bit more agile due to its forward-leaning position and rear-set foot pegs. The 320mm single disc up front, a 240mm disc at the rear, along with ABS provide good stopping power. Initial bite from the front brake and feedback is decent, but the rear brake pedal could have had better feedback. Suspension setup is quite neutral, so taking corners at high speed isn't an issue, and one can manage almost similar cornering speed on both bikes. Straight line stability on both bikes is impressive, so one can easily manage doing cruising, cornering, regular riding, commuting, pretty much everything, and that's what makes these bikes so versatile.
So after 2 days of action-packed riding of these two new Royal Enfield twins, it is time to say goodbye to these motorcycles. What this also means is that it is time to give you a conclusive statement of what these motorcycles really are, how good they are and what kind of value they offer. Well, at a price of 2.5 lakh starting for the Interceptor and at 2.65 lakh price tag for the Conti GT, it is absolutely a killer pricing for these motorcycles. What you get is a great motor, good looking retro motorcycles, they handle well, they ride well, the equipment is good, the detailing is good. All of that, put it in a package, and what you get is an extremely strong value for money quotient. And that is precisely what is going to be the strong point for these motorcycles. Now, while the pricing of these motorcycles is truly disruptive, one also needs to take into consideration the fact that there's nothing else in the 500cc plus segment that you can get in this price. Now, no matter where you're staying in the country, you will get these motorcycles for about 3 lakh rupees on road. That is what the company has tried to do. So that's the reason why, if you're someone staying in the state of Kerala, the ex-showroom price is as low as 2.33 lakh. And that is a big thing, because what this does is it just brings large capacity motorcycles to the masses. It just makes big motorcycles so much more accessible to masses, and that is a great achievement that Royal Enfield has done with these twin motorcycles. And a lot of you have been personally asking us a lot of stories and through email, which one is better? Well, as a personal choice, I would prefer the Interceptor, simply because it's more practical, it's easier to ride, the riding position is better. But what I can tell you is, no matter what you buy, whether the Interceptor or the Conti GT, you will not go wrong with these motorcycles. Yes, of course, again, as a lot of you have asked earlier, there was the case of Himalayan where a lot of reliability issues came up, but Royal Enfield is saying, and they have assured us, they're claiming that they have done more work than ever before on these motorcycles to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Now, how that fares up in the long term is something that we'll get to know over the period of next few months. We'll also do a long-term test for these motorcycles, but for now, if you have to go and buy these motorcycles, there's nothing else that is better than these in the market right now.